Aloha and mahalo. Thank you so much for catching this. It's Dave Lawrence. I'm inside HPR's Atherton Performing Arts Studio, where I really enjoy spending time. I get to do a lot of interviews in this place. And
beautiful.
Isn't this a nice room?
This is really amazing.
And we bring every kind of thing together in here. We've done political debates, we do storytelling, we've done Ziggy Marley Unplugged, we've done Godsmack Unplugged, we do classical music. I mean, it's just like...
We've done political debates between Ziggy Marley and Godsmack?
Probably in the same night, maybe
amazing.
even. It would be a good dichotomy. But the neat thing also about it is it's sort of a theater, which is why for this particular occasion, we kind of show off our theater because we have a theatrical guest. And Sarah Callies, is that the pronunciation?
Yeah.
Sarah Wayne Callies is also better known probably to a lot of folks as Lori from The Walking Dead. It's a little surreal to sit here and watch you after seeing every single episode. So a big aloha mahalo to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for having me.
And you're Lori from The Walking Dead, aka Sarah, it's hard to know what to call her, is not just visiting Hawaii, you're actually from here, all but the first year of your life.
Yeah, I don't remember Chicago.
Right, and who, LaGrange, right? Is that where you were born?
LaGrange, that's right.
Has a very ZZ Top kind of feel.
That's how my husband first kind of...
Associated it?
Yeah, he was like, the girl from LaGrange. I used to listen to that when I was wrestling. But, I don't know if I could find LaGrange on a map right now.
And so you got here, and what was raised in Hawaii, what are your earliest distinctly island memories that you associate with here? Everything?
Well, I remember one of my earliest memories is having my fingers completely sticky with tangerine juice. The first place we lived in was like Upper Manoa. And...
Be a little closer to your mic. Pull that thing in a little. Don't be sorry.
Apparently it was like wake up, toddle outside in a diaper, fill your hands with like strawberry guava, and I think we even had some lychee then. I don't know why we moved away from a house that had lychee. I'm sure there was a good reason. And mountain apple, and just food. Hawaii's 90% about food to me.
And that's what she was just saying before the interview too, trying to stock up on like malasadas and all the different local items that we have here. You're, from what I've read, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologize if any of this stuff is wrong, your parents are UH professors?
Yeah, my mom just retired, but yeah, she was at UH for I think 35 years.
Where did the acting bug bite you? When did it bite you?
Well, my mom taught in the UH English department, and she teaches Renaissance literature, which is, more or less Shakespeare. So through her, I was exposed to lots and lots of productions of Shakespeare, and plays were something that was worth studying and worth engaging with from, kind of a really early age. And so when I was kind of casting about in high school for Where's My Place, I remember there were auditions for As You Like It. And I knew a little bit about the play because, it was on Mom's bookshelf and it was Shakespeare. And I was like, let's try this. And I walked in, and I don't know that I'd really auditioned for much. I'd been in the St. Andrew's Priory summer program and done plays before, but nothing serious. And I ended up getting cast as the lead, and I remember calling my mom, and I was like, hey, Mom, who's Rosalind? She was like, you have 500 lines to memorize. Good luck, kid.
And you're how old at this point?
I think it was my sophomore year.
Okay, it's like 15, 16.
So. Yeah, maybe 14, something like
right
that.
Around there. Punahou.
Yeah.
Everybody's from Punahou now, right? I mean, you haven't met the Prez yet, I assume. But when you do, you'll have a little more to share than the average zombie or average person.
I suppose that's possible. His sister was actually my babysitter growing up.
Oh, wow.
And so to me, he's the president, and I have a whole huge, amount of respect and admiration for him. But to be perfectly honest, he's probably Maya's brother to me more than he is anything else.
So you know him?
No, I've never met him, but I grew up wanting to be Maya. Like his sister had the most beautiful voice and the most amazing hair, and I was just at that age where you just go, when I grow up, I want to be Maya. And I remember my mom calling me at one point, and she goes, Sarah, I think your babysitter is addressing the DNC right now. You might want to turn on the television. And that was my introduction to Barack Obama, which is, I guess different from the way most other people.
Very personal, very island introduction. I dig that. That's a cool introduction. So you share even more than the Punahou thing is what you're saying. It goes way deeper than that.
I guess so, yeah. And it's funny because Punahou, it's a funny thing, right? Like to some people, it's like a swear word and it's a dirty word. And to some people, it's this huge source of pride. And
Good point.
every time I come home, the sands have shifted a little bit.
And and what it means.
Yeah.
To drop the Punahou
my folks
reference.
teach at UH. We'll stop there.
What are there any other things about Punahou or your acting experiences there that you look back on now as being sort of important in who you become? Anything in particular that you look back on from there and your high school acting experiences?
Well, I mean, there were a group of us acting, that were all kind of friends, and the way high school is, you end up dating one or two of them or whatever.
Sure.
But there were a couple of actors that I remember. We did a bunch of plays together. We did King and I and the Government Inspector and a few other things, and the Mikado. And they're some of the best actors I've ever worked with. They're amazing, and it was really interesting to see what happened when we all left Hawaii.
They choose different paths that went to mainland schools?
We all went to school in the mainland.
Anyone go to Dartmouth with you, or are you the only one?
Actually, of the acting gang, no, but I did go to Dartmouth with a really good friend from high school, and we now live a few blocks from each other, and
Ironic,
I'm like the god mom to her daughter. I mean, it's
What state is that? Where are you
really.
living? Where is that you're living a few blocks?
Atlanta, in Georgia.
Right.
Walking Dead land.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's complicated. I mean, I guess there were probably 3 of us that really took it super seriously, and we all went off to the mainland, and I think we were all kind of contemplating a job in the arts, and I got lucky.
How much because I went to school in Boston, so I always am curious. Yeah, and our boss, HPR news director Bill Dorman, went to Dartmouth. So he actually,
Really?
and I went to Emerson, so I was curious how much Boston ever did it factor into your college experience? Did you cruise down there a lot? I just can't imagine like being contained in New Hampshire for all those years.
Every now and again, you did get a little bit stir crazy. And actually, one of my good friends, Brent, who was a year ahead of me at Punahou, his best friend was a kid named Mike Bassford, who I think is now teaching at Punahou, like his dad did before him. And Mike went to Harvard, and he called one day at like 4 p.m. He's like, "We got a formal. I don't know any girls down here. Would you just get in the car and come be my date?" And I was like, "Sure." And, we sang together in chorale and stuff in high school. And so I went down and, put on a dress and heels, and we went to this formal, and it was kind of my first introduction to big, fancy, wealthy mainland.
Yeah.
And Mike and I just kind of spent the whole night with our jaws on the floor going, "Oh my God, this is a real mansion."
Somewhere there in Cambridge.
I think it was a drive out. It was into like the big money estate
Areas.
parts of Massachusetts. And I still have really strong visual images of some of those rooms with like 30-foot ceilings and huge oil paintings. And, I think at one point I visited the restroom and there was like a Picasso sketch in the restroom. I was like, Someone showed me a Basquiat. I was like, these are not my people.
That's heavy.
It was crazy. Good fun, though.
What made Denver the National Theater Conservatory? What made that is that like the logical next step after?
Well, I wanted to get a master's because with a master's is a terminal degree in acting, and so it meant I could teach at a university. And ultimately, I guess as the daughter of university professors, that's kind of a goal to me.
Still.
Yep. This is not a business, acting, that's particularly kind on women
Right.
at a certain age. And if the choice is ruin your face or get out of the business.
Good backup plan.
Yeah, and I love an academic environment, and I would really love to teach.
Yeah.
And so that was a part of it. And, the National Theater Conservatory, apart from being an incredible school, was fully funded. So it meant that if you auditioned and you got in, you were given a free ride plus a stipend.
Oh,
And since I was putting myself through grad school, those looked like pretty good odds.
yeah, no doubt.
So we ended up there.
So the acting bug, it's we hear this story of how it sort of emerged in your youth and the connection to your mom and stuff. And then, am I right? 2003 Law and Order SVU. That was the first pro gig. That's what your online resume says. So please forgive me if any of this
First
stuff
pro gig, I think. Well,
seem right.
The very first thing I did, I don't think anyone really ever saw because CBS yanked it about 20 seconds after it was on the air. It was called, oh help, Queen Supreme. And I was hired to play a law clerk, which my friends all thought was funny because they were all in law school. And it was starring Annabella Sciorra, Robert Loggia, Scotty Caldwell, and Oliver Platt. And so they were these kind of really seasoned pros. And my job was to just keep my mouth shut and watch them. So they were kind of the master class. Because, the education I got with my master's was incredible, but it was all theater-based. And I did, I think, 5 or 6 episodes of Queen Supreme. And I didn't know thing one about how to do work on camera. And it's probably great that it never aired because I guarantee you I'm terrible.
Right.
I guarantee you I'm playing to a 700-person house with a camera right here and just messing it up. So I learned enough from them to, keep slowly building a resume.
After, where did they shoot the Prison Break show? Where was that getting shot?
We started in Chicago, first season, in Joliet. And actually, the other Obama connection was hilarious. So Wentworth Miller and I were walking around Joliet, which is a very depressed town, just about 45 minutes south of Chicago. And we were shooting the pilot, and we were trying to get to know each other and, figure out how to play these characters. And we walked by this storefront that had been the sign, that had been the site of some political campaign headquarters. And there were these signs all over the ground that said Barack Obama for senator. And I remember us walking by going, Barack Obama? Well, there's a guy you'll never hear from again.
No.
And literally you couldn't get elected, couldn't get elected the postmaster with a name like that in this country. And we started this whole conversation about what a problem that is and how we wish it were different. And then I think it was about 2 years later.
You made the big connection.
That Wentworth called me and he's like, dude, this
remember?
guy just showed up in a major way. And it was right around the same time that my mom was like, this guy, your babysitter's talking to the DNC. So, my political acumen is clearly infallible. And I'm always right. And I can call elections based on nothing but my own stupid idea of what name the American people would elect.
But that's a good little story. So that's Stewart. So you guys are filming there. That happens in the Chicago area.
So that was Chicago area. Seasons 2 and 3, we were in Dallas. And season 4, we were in Los Angeles.
Okay. And so then that thing ends and what happens? You get the call for this gig and you because I'm fascinated. You kind of mentioned it earlier, the moving around part, the tentative nature of these gigs. They come, they go. Yeah. What happened? When did it emerge that you were going to be moving to Atlanta and doing this?
Oh, for The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Well, Prison Break ended, and I was actually approached by a Canadian production company to develop a series up there. So I did that. Project failed totally, but it was a really interesting opportunity to kind of get in, to figure out what it meant to start making television. To take a story and a concept and find a writer and work with that writer. And we shot the pilot, and I starred in the pilot as well as produced it. And so,
is that Vancouver?
It was Montreal, actually, which
nice.
is a really fun city.
Gorgeous. One of my favorites. The most romantic city in the world.
It's incredible.
Old Montreal.
That's which is right Street. Where I was staying.
Hello,
yes, it was incredible.
You don't gotta
I don't know
tell
if
me.
St. Catharines is romantic. That's
no,
but
I mean, I meant more of the old Montreal, the overall vibe. I was just throwing that in as a fun place to stroll.
No, and and so much music and
it
was great. We had a really good time there, but the pilot ultimately didn't work, and so. When they didn't pick it up, I went to Nigeria, actually, working on one of the first bridge projects between the Nigerian film industry, which is the 3rd largest in the world after the US and India. And they wanted to do a bridge project with a few Hollywood actors and the Nigerian film community. So it was written, directed, and mostly starring. And we shot it in Nigeria. And the director had seen Prison Break and just kind of on a winger. He was like, listen, do you want to come to Nigeria and make no money and live in the middle of nowhere with, roaches everywhere? And I was like, dude, I grew up in the middle of nowhere with roaches everywhere. Done, no problem. So I went to Nigeria and they sent me the script for The Walking Dead.